The Boy Scouts of America, born February 8th, 1910. Committed suicide on the installment plan, May 23rd, 2013. May it rest in peace.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Welcome to the program, friend. Just who have the Boy Scouts of America betrayed? The parents of straight kids or the parents of homosexual teenagers? Yeah, it's going to get really bizarre in the debate out there. But to add some clarity and frankly a stroke of genius, I now turn to the professore.
Great Scott! The US dollar has the same trajectory as the meteorite that fell in Russia. One of my graduate students asked me, "What is that trajectory?" And I said, "Down, you blistering idiot! Down! A meteorite falls down!"
Welcome to the program, friend. For those of you who want to laugh when you watch this show, I try very hard to bring comedy, irony, a little bit of wit here and there. Lane, get ready. I'm going to go to that other camera. In 3, 2. That was funny, Randall. Yeah. Okay, back to you. All right, now, that's pathetic. I know. All right, listen. I've got intense stuff to talk about. Maybe we'll get a little bit of laughs in when we get to McCain and the Islamic freedom fighters. I say that in quotes, by the way, in Syria. But let's talk about heartbreak first. There's nothing funny here. If you've got small children in the room, I suggest that you escort them out or ask them to leave. In our family, we don't even have certain discussions because the vocabulary requires definition, and we don't want these words to be in the lexicon of little boys that are in single digit in their ages, okay? All right, warning over. The Boy Scouts of America voted, as you've probably heard, to allow openly gay teens into the Boy Scouts, but still refuse to have openly gay scoutmasters. Now, as you can imagine, this has caused a conflagration of quarreling, of hurling of stones and invectives. It's almost like nobody's happy. The openly homosexual community is mocking this, saying, "Oh, you let our gay son serve, but you won't let us serve? We won't discriminate against you until you're 18 years old, and then let the discrimination begin." Blistering criticism from the homosexual community saying basically that the Boy Scouts didn't go far enough. Conversely, there are parents, church groups, churches that are saying left and right, we're out, we're gone, we're done, we are out of here. There is going to be a meeting within the next couple months of high-profile Christian leaders and lovers of the Scouts to create a new organization for the anticipated hundreds of thousands, perhaps over 1 million members of the Scouts who will now leave. Now, I am going to speak very directly to you, okay? So I said you might want to have young people leave the room. What defines an openly gay teenager? What defines them? It's their sexual practices. That's it. What defines them is who they're having sex with. What parts of the human anatomy are they exploiting and debasing with members of the same gender in an act that is inherently sinful and self-destructive? All right? That's what defines an openly gay teenager. Now, for those of you who have swallowed the Kool-Aid and you just want tolerance and pluralism and mercy and kindness, let me ask you a question. If you had a group of Girl Scouts or whatever girls group there is, that you've got some 15 and 16-year-old girls who are having overnighters in the tents, would you want a predator teenage boy, a boy who has a history of sexual promiscuity with teenagers throughout the school? Would you want that teenage boy to spend the night in the tent with the girls? Why not? Oh, because you don't want him hitting on them sexually? Or how about this? Let's say you've got teenage boys, 16 years old, hormones going crazy, and the town floozy or the school floozies, the girls that are living their lives like unpaid harlots, God help us all, they're having sex with whoever, whenever, and they want to spend the night in the tent with the boys, with the Boy Scouts. Would you be in support of that? Would you think that was a good idea? Well, why not? I mean, all that defines that immoral young man or that immoral young woman is their sexual practices. Why not let them spend the night in the tent? See what happens. Let nature take its course in its most debased and ungodly sense. Well, it's the same concept of saying we are now going to let openly gay teenagers be in the Boy Scouts. What defines them are their immoral sexual deeds. Period. It's not that they like Barbra Streisand and show tunes. I've got to take a break. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about this a little bit more and about John McCain meeting secretly in southern Turkey and crossing the border into Syria to plead for arms to be given to people who want to rule the world under Sharia law. Bad plan, Mr. McCain. All right, you want comedy, Gary? Here's comedy. Mr. McCain, hello, hello. The lights are on. Nobody's home.
There was a concern, no matter what the result was today. And we fully anticipate that there will be units that we will lose, both locally and nationally.
Governor Rick Perry is not supporting this decision. Perry, an Eagle Scout himself, wrote a book about scouting values. Soon after the decision today, he released a statement. The Boy Scouts of America has been built upon the values of faith and family for more than 100 years. And today's decision contradicts generations of tradition in the name of political correctness.
Every day in America, over 3,500 babies are torn apart by abortion. Shouldn't all babies, like this living, unborn child, have the right to life? Baby killing will only end when Americans see the truth of what abortion does to innocent children. You can help end this Holocaust by showing the truth of abortion in your area with a Face the Truth tour. Go to facethetruthamerica.com to set up a Face the Truth tour in your area. The babies and their mothers will be eternally grateful. In the 1980s, banks introduced designer checks. When my buddy George Johnson inquired at the bank, they had nothing for pro-lifers. So the Johnsons created beautiful pro-life bank checks showing babies with a strong pro-life message. You can speak out for life with every check you write, whether personal or business checks. Be a voice for babies with these pro-life checks. Go to prolifecheckguy.com to see more. That's prolifecheckguy.com. Don't try to be subtle or clever. Use a pile driver. Hit the point once, then come back and hit it a second time. A tremendous whack. Sir Winston Churchill. Welcome back, friend. I just thought I would start with a different camera angle because the content of the show is so horrendous. It's not funny, I know. I'm just trying to lighten it up. Okay, look. My late son, God rest his soul, I adopted him when he was 14. We took him as a foster child when he was 8. by the time that we had him, he died at age 30 in a horrible car accident. By the time that we got him at 8 years old, he had already been sexually molested. And then, as a young adult, he decided that he was going to be openly homosexual and advocate the homosexual lifestyle. And then, of course, we learned of the immoral contact with other young men at the church that we attended. Okay? This all came out years later. Completely unsuspecting, naive dad. The vast majority of homosexual men suffer from sexual confusion, a crisis of sexual identity, and were molested at some level, sexually abused as children. Okay? That is simply a statistical reality. And then what often happens is that the abused becomes the abuser. The one who has been preyed upon begins to prey upon others. The simple reality displayed in history with one anecdotal testimony after another is that this young man who was sexually abused, molested, preyed upon as a child, then integrates that warped spirituality and a warped sense of sexual excitement. He integrates it into his psyche and his behaviors, and then acts it out and wants to bring others into that lifestyle. Read Boy Scouts, okay? Hear Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts voted to allow, Boy Scouts of America voted to allow openly homosexual teenagers to be in the Boy Scouts. Well, what do you think is going to happen? Do the math. Part of the problem that we're facing is this. We have misguided sympathies and an unholy definition of mercy. If somebody came to you, a loved one, a family member, one of your children, grandchildren, and said, I am a heroin addict, or I'm a cocaine addict or a crack addict, and this is the lifestyle that I have chosen. It makes me happy. This is what I want to do. This is who I am. Would you say to them, I support you in your decision. I love you and I just want you to be happy? Most of us wouldn't do that. We would say, no, please, I love you. I don't want this for you. You're going to die. Something bad, something tragic is going to happen to you. Please let me help you. I love you. I do want you to be happy, but I'm not going to put my blessing and my permission on a behavior that could take your life. Now think in terms of sexual immorality, whether it's homosexual sin or heterosexual sin. Everyone has sin. We're all sinners. We all need the kindness and the mercy of God. All of us have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. The issue becomes when we try and change the standard. Okay? Do you hear me? If somebody comes up to you and said, I stole something and I feel so bad, you don't say, well, stealing really isn't a sin anymore. We can be merciful. Yes, now think Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts are trying to change the standard, what is right and wrong, good and evil, intrinsically self-destructive, an intrinsically dangerous lifestyle that causes many people to catch deadly diseases. Okay? It's not mercy to say to someone, I love you and I'm going to support you in this decision of a behavior that is sinful and self-destructive and could alienate someone's soul from God Himself for all eternity. That's not love, friend. It's not mercy. It's equivocation and compromise and a betrayal of God's standards and God's order. Don't submit to the temptation. I've got to take a break. When I come back, we'll talk about John McCain and his leaving of the plantation. Good grief.
Outside of the council's meeting at a hotel in Grapevine, Texas, those opposing openly gay scouts vowed to leave the BSA.
The vote today to allow open and avowed homosexuality in Boy Scouts will completely transform it into an unprincipled and risky proposition for parents.
John Stemberger, an Eagle Scout and Florida-based attorney, says the change clashes with his religious values. Of the 100,000 scouting units in the nation, about 70% are chartered by religious institutions.
Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. O Lord, thou God of vengeance, shine forth. Rise up, O Judge of the earth. Render to the proud their deserts. O Lord, how long shall the wicked exult? By the way, this breaking news, the Boy Scouts of America have just announced they're going to introduce a merit badge, 2 new merit badges, one for the number of sexual partners that an openly gay teenager has, and a merit badge for tolerance. Sick, okay? Sick. All right, let's talk about John McCain for a minute. McCain, as you've probably heard, went on a secret mission to meet with some of the leaders of the rebellion against Bashar al-Assad, the leader of Syria. He has been imploring the Obama administration to give arms to the rebel fighters. Before we go there, and we'll talk about this in tomorrow's program as well, I want to give you some quick history about Bashar al-Assad. He was never supposed to be the leader. His older brother was supposed to succeed his father, but his older brother died in a car crash in the mid-90s. Bashar was studying in England at the time. He had studied to become an ophthalmologist, right, an eye doctor, and was really exposed to a lot of Western ideas. And when he took power in 2000, he promised really sweeping reforms, said that they would move towards democratization. He allowed a free press. I think 4 newspapers emerged. He allowed dissident groups to have public meetings, allowed criticism of the government. They had to change the constitution of Syria to allow a 34-year-old to take power. And when you look at the pictures of him at the time, he's obviously a kid and a young man with a lot of exposure to the ideals and the behaviors of the Western democracies. And I think when he was in London, he probably really did think, this is a better way to live. It really is. He promised to crack down on corruption. And for a while, things seemed to go well. What is unclear in my reading is when they began to crack down in the early 2000s, how much of that came from him, how much of it came from his political masters in Iran, how much of it came from some of his father's counselors who survived the father and said, if you keep down this path, you will lose power. We at this point, I don't know. But I think at the beginning, he probably would have liked to had, well, according to his own testimony and the things that he did early on, he wanted to bring change. Now, as of right now, there are anywhere between 60 and 90,000 people who have been killed in the fighting. John McCain, God bless him, has served this country honorably in the military, was tortured by the North Vietnamese in a prisoner of war camp, has served in the U.S. Senate for decades, literally. He is truly being motivated by human sympathy, by human concern. But sympathy doesn't always lead to good policy. Talk about that when I come back. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last.
A fine hat is the mark of a fine man.
Welcome back, friend. Misguided sympathy, leading to the demise and the corruption of the Boy Scouts, leading Senator McCain to want to arm Muslim terrorists, all right, with weapons that could one day be used against us. I mean, I can promise you this, my sons, sadly, my sons will now never serve in the Boy Scouts. They will never be members of the Boy Scouts because of what happened. And we had talked about it, about them being in the Boy Scouts when their age was right. And now it's over. It's not going to happen unless there's a complete reversal of this policy. All right, going back to our federal government for a minute. Remember this, a broken clock is right twice a day. And every once in a while, President Obama, our broken clock in chief, gets something right. Namely, the Obama administration is saying they do not want to arm these rebels because they don't want the weapons to fall into the hands of people who might one day use these weapons against us. I feel like this is deja vu all over again. Does anybody here remember Afghanistan, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda? Where do you think many of these groups got their early training and their early weapons? Yeah, from us. When we armed them to fight against the Soviets. Okay? That came to bite us. So, our friends in the rebellion against the Syrian government, they're asking for weapons, and more weapons. And they want surface-to-air missiles. Now, the funny thing about a surface-to-air missile is it will shoot down a Syrian jet. And oh my goodness, it will shoot down an American jet. Okay? We have had soldiers die in Afghanistan, killed with the armaments that we provided to the Muslim freedom fighters against the Soviets. Do we want to go down that path again? Do we want to? Did you know that part of the freedom fighters are actually affiliated with Al-Qaeda? I mean, it's all over the news. You arm the rebellion, you're going to arm elements of Al-Qaeda. I don't know if my hands are big enough to fill with the stupid pills that it would take to want to go down that path. I'll talk to you more about this tomorrow. Hold on, here goes. It tastes pretty good. I feel good. There's a terrorist. Will you be my friend? Are you my mommy? you.